Hey, I just wanted to make a quick video on the rental moratorium for Tim Pool. He's very confused. Most people who got fired got unemployment and got enhanced unemployment. A huge number of these people at the bottom of the pay scale in the United States got more money off unemployment than they did off working. So they should have been putting that money. They should have just actually been paying rent because they were making more money than they were making, while they were working. And on top of that, they weren't paying rent. So ideally, they would have continued paying rent. If not, they should have put money aside so they could continue paying rent. If they spent all the money that the government gave them, which was substantial, and all the money they would have spent on rent, you really can't feel sorry for these people. They just overspent like crazy. And what do you do with a society that overspends like that? People have to learn their lesson. It's going to be okay. They'll be able to couch surf. They'll be able to, rent somewhere else. This is a lesson learned. You need to continue paying rent if you want to live somewhere. If you have the means and you put money aside for a future date. There are very few people who both were making less on unemployment than they did when they were working, who can't currently find a job, and who are getting evicted. So it's really not going to be that big of a deal. Millions of people aren't going to go homeless. It's going to be like zero people. Everyone's going to figure something out. That's how it always happens with these scares. They say, oh no, millions of people, it's all going to be crazy. And in fact, a lot of people get evicted. They'll stay with a friend for a couple weeks, and then they'll move into a new place. People are just trying to run out the clock. They're trying to see, how long can I live here, without paying, how long can I accept this enhanced unemployment? Maybe they'll extend that too. So whole thing is ridiculous. On top of that, as Tim Pool doesn't know because he's not a landlord, this is ridiculous. This has destroyed real estate as an asset class. Part of it is that, BlackRock's coming in and buying housing for way over asking price. I actually sold my rental to BlackRock. But a big part of it is also that I don't want to be in real estate for now, right? If it keeps going up, that's cool. I'll put my money in another inflation hedge. But if it doesn't, it's too uncertain. I don't know what the rules are. How can I invest confidently if the government can just say, hey, my tenants don't have to pay rent for the next 2 months just because I said so, just because I was acting too sluggishly, I didn't give the money out in time? How can I, as a landlord, arrange my life? And one of the things Tim Pool, and no one actually has mentioned this, no one that I've heard has mentioned this, because most people aren't landlords. It isn't just that I don't pay my mortgage and therefore I don't have to collect rent and I get to keep my house. It's not how it works. If that was the house I lived in for years and years and years, and when I moved to another house, I rented out the first one, I invested a significant sum of money into that house. So yeah, my mortgage might only be $800, but I might have been counting on that additional $500 I was receiving from renting out for, let's say $1,300, which is a really common split. Usually if your mortgage is like $800, you should really be charging about $1,600 in rent, just because of expenses, just because of turnover. If the house is vacant for a month, that will actually destroy your entire profits for a whole year. Any time you spend doing taxes for the house or going and repairing the house, stuff like that, you should really be charging about double what you pay in mortgage. But if there's a house for 200 grand and I put down 100 grand of my life savings into that house to have a very affordable mortgage, and then I rent out that mortgage, just because the government says the bank won't foreclose on me doesn't mean I wasn't counting on that additional $800 a month. And so now, once I do this eviction, I'm not going to be able to collect rent for a month while I move someone else in, at least a month, if someone moves in right away, or if someone moves in pretty quick. On top of that, all of the work I've been doing for taxes, like that's money as a small business owner. That's time I have to account for in what it costs to own a rental or multiple rentals. If I had to do any fixes, just to avoid a lawsuit from my tenants, even though I wasn't able to evict them, all of those things are things that I have to account for. And now I can no longer trust the government to not do something ridiculous in the future, like just say, hey, renters, I don't have to pay. What really worries me on top of this is that this is what the government's doing now. What do you think they're going to do during the next crisis? The squad was actually saying, hey, what we should do? We should make it so renters own a piece of the profits that the landlords make when they sell the house. Like if you've been renting a place for 5 years, and the landlord sells it, why don't you get a piece of that equity? So because no one knows the rules for real estate right now, it doesn't make sense. And markets are at all-time highs. I put a house about 10% over what I thought I could make on it. So I bought a house, it went up significantly. I put 10% over market value, what I thought what I thought the high end was, just because real estate, was going crazy. An investment firm came in and bought it for 1% over asking price. So really 11% over what it should have gone. And a big part of this is that we had other people come in, like regular humans, put offers in on the house. Big difference is that the investment firm decided to close the deal in 10 days with cash and with no inspection. They waived all inspections. So they did not care. I put a ton of work into that house. So, I think they could see that, but they do not care. They can take that risk because they have their own crew that'll come in and fix everything, that will, redo, a lot of times they'll redo the paint because they want all of their units to have a standard paint on the inside at least. So they have their own crews that'll come through and fix things, but a regular person can't take that risk. A regular person actually can't just say, no, I need an inspection in case something's wrong with the plumbing, something's leaking, the roof's all effed up. So a big part of what I think Tim Pool and a lot of people are missing is, number one, the risk. It doesn't make sense for a normal person to own real estate right now. There's just way too much risk involved. Number two, just because the government says the bank can't take my house away doesn't mean I wasn't depending on the difference between my mortgage and what I was collecting in rent. And there's a lot of ethical reasons why there might be a big difference. It's not just because I'm scamming the renter. It's not wrong for me. If a renter is renting a $200,000 home, it's not wrong for me to charge them rent equal to what they would pay for any $200,000 home out there. If I went on my own and paid $100,000 down just to have a little bit of room on the payments, that's between me and the bank. It doesn't make sense that I should be $100,000 in the hole, and that the renter should benefit from my sacrifices throughout accumulating those life savings. So those are the two main things. Tons of uncertainty, and this makes no sense economically. I believe that giant unethical companies are going to continue to dominate the real estate market because it just doesn't make sense for anyone to be a landlord anymore. I've been telling all of my friends, hey, you might want to sell and just rent for a couple of years just to see how everything pans out. You don't know what that house is a huge part of a home's value is in the fact that one day you can rent it to someone, or you can rent a room to someone. We don't know how that's going to turn out right now. We don't know what the government's going to do during the next crash. We don't know if they're going to do lockdowns again. We don't know what's happening with interest rates. So lock in your profits now and have a great day. Bye.